programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Digestion is a really energy-consuming, intense process. And that may be one of the benefits of fasting, is that you don't have to put a lot of energy into all of those processes. You're living on reserves that are burned very efficiently.
Continue watching to find out more.
p2o3 means how are you in the Cook Islands Maori language. Pleasant viewers, I'm Taina. The people of the Cook Islands wish for your spirit to continue elevating with Providence grace. Welcome to today's program, Fasting Ourselves Out of the Pleasure Trap, Dr. Alan Goldhamer, Vegan, Part 2 or 3. In our 3-part series, we are honored to feature health expert Dr. Alan Goldhamer. He is a chiropractor and has been vegan for more than 40 years. To encourage the public to return to a healthier life, Dr. Goldhamer co-authored the book, The Pleasure Trap, Mastering the Hidden Force That Undermines Health and Happiness, to share his insightful observations on removing barriers to wellness and the practice of water fasting. In 1984, Dr. Goldhamer established the Santa Rosa, California, USA-based True North Health Center that provides medical, chiropractic, naturopathic, massage, and acupuncture services. The center is now the largest facility in the world that specializes in medically supervised water-only fasting. In the first episode, Dr. Alan Goldhamer expounded on the concept of the traps in people's diets, namely eating unhealthy processed foods. The consequences of this manifest as many serious health conditions in our modern society, such as obesity, cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, and autoimmune disorders.
And so what we advocate is people eat a health-promoting, whole plant food, SOS-free diet. SOS is, of course, the international symbol of danger, but it also stands for the chemicals added to food, including salt, oil, and sugar, that fool the satiety mechanisms of the brain and create what we call the pleasure trap. And so, in our experience, eating a whole plant food diet will result in helping normalize weight because it normalizes satiety and gives people a way of sustaining high nutrition without dietary excess. For example, when you eat whole plant foods, you get a lot of fiber. The higher fiber intake tends to have a satiating effect. The diets we recommend are actually about 10 to 12% of calories from protein, about 15 to 18% of calories from fat, with the balance coming from whole plant food complex carbohydrates.
Today, Dr. Goldhamer delves into the details of water fasting and how it can be a mode to restore health.
The big part of our energy and function is involved in digestion. Digestion is a really energy-consuming, intense process. And that may be one of the benefits of fasting, is that you don't have to put a lot of energy into all of those processes, you're living on reserves that are burned very efficiently, and it may be that the body's, quote, energy, so to speak, can be diverted into healing rather than carrying on functions of digestion and assimilation and elimination. Well, you start with the feeding that's done before fasting. One of the things that we encourage patients to do is to adopt a whole plant food diet, but even more than that, the few days before fasting, if they limit their diet to fruits, salads, and steamed and starchy vegetables, that actually seems to be the best preparation for undergoing fasting, particularly eliminating a lot of the drugs like caffeine and other things that have such uncomfortable withdrawal reactions. And then you enter the fasting state itself, where after you've had appropriate preparation, you begin to go on water only. The first part of that fast, the body is going to use its glycogen reserves as well as the glucose that's in the digestive tract. And after a day or two, those available sugars have become depleted. So the body will have to go to glycogen or sugar reserves, which is found, for example, in the muscles. And after about 48 hours, not only is the glucose that's in the belly used, but the glycogen in the muscles is used, and now the body has to make a conversion to begin burning fat. And this process, what's called ketosis, is where the body changes fuels, including the biggest burner of glucose, our brain. So, biggest burner of glucose is actually that bulbous neuronal net at the end of our spinal column. And it can change in humans from burning glucose to burning ketones, or a byproduct of fat metabolism, specifically beta-hydroxybutyric acid.
Dr. Goldhamer now discusses the portion of the fast where the body begins to consume its stored fat after primarily burning glucose for energy.
Once you get into that phase of fasting where you're living predominantly on fat, in fact, by the end of the second week of fasting, the brain is using predominantly fat as fuel. And so there's still a little bit of glucose that's used, and that's going to come from a process called gluconeogenesis, or the breakdown of protein. But because of the conservation mechanism of fasting, the amount of protein burned is minimal, and particularly if you rest when you fast. One of the mistakes that people make is they try to maintain higher activity levels when they're fasting because they think that that's going to facilitate more weight loss. But what it actually does is it facilitates more protein breakdown. So by resting, you can increase the likelihood that most of the fuel that you're burning is going to be fat rather than protein.
To cope with toxins entering the body that cannot otherwise be removed, the body may put them in our fat stores. Thus, burning fat has a detoxifying effect on our system, which benefits our overall health. Toxic metals and other harmful elements are discharged from the body during ketosis as part of the fat reserves being utilized. Properly ending a fast is crucial, and a gradual transition to eating again is regarded as the most essential part of the process.
So too rapid a return to feeding after a long period of fasting can be a significant and serious event, and can result in problems including things like refeeding syndrome or other conditions that can be very serious. So it's important that refeeding after fasting be done progressively. In our facility, we typically have a day of fresh fruit or vegetable juices for every week of fasting, a day of raw fruits and vegetables for every week of fasting, and then slowly introduce the more concentrated foods as a person's digestive system recovers after their fasting period. And of course, our patients fast anywhere from 5 to 40 days on water. So it can become a very serious process that does require medical supervision and appropriate monitoring in order to ensure that it's safe and effective.
Fasting results in hormonal changes in the body, which encourage more moderate eating patterns. Dr. Goldhamer explains.
But what I can tell you is that in fasting and also in modified fasting or fasting mimicking programs, one of the changes that happens is the satiety hormones tend to increase. And so it makes it more possible to rebalance people's hormonal issues. And therefore, after fasting, they find they can reach satiety with a whole plant food diet more readily than they had when they were on a conventional program with a lot of refined carbohydrates. For example, sugar does something. Refined sugars tend to drive the insulin levels up as the body uses this hormone to drive the sugar into the cells. And when insulin levels go up, oftentimes there's a little overreaction, particularly with the refined carbohydrates, which tends to drop the sugar levels down, which triggers the hunger, satiation, the craving issues, and the binging that sometimes is an issue for people. So sometimes just getting rid of all these sugars, all these refined carbohydrates, all the white flours and products, tends to normalize insulin levels, amongst other changes. And now people don't have the same level of cravings, and they don't have a lot of the problems where they're eating not because they're hungry, but because their brain chemistry has been confused, and their brain is telling them that they're starving to death even though they may be obese.
We thank Dr. Alan Goldhamer for his detailed insights on water fasting and are pleased to know he recommends a plant-based, SOS-free diet as the most beneficial choice for health. Please join us on Saturday, August 22nd for the final episode of this series, Fasting Ourselves Out of the Pleasure Trap, Dr. Alan Goldhamer, vegan. To learn more about the True North Health Center, please visit healthpromoting.com. Dr. Goldhamer's book, The Pleasure Trap, is available at amazon.com. Eminent viewers, we are glad to have you with us today for our program. Up next is The Maya is Gone and The Life of Lord Mahavira, The Deliverance of Chandana, Part 4 of 7, on Between Master and Disciples, right after noteworthy news. May God's gentle guidance always be with you.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/HL.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/HL.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/HL.
รายการของเรามีให้หลายภาษาโปรดดู suprememastertv.com/schedule และ suprememastertv.com/HL